So, final two sessions of the morning are on mobile. The first one is on mobile game. Well, has mobile gaming finally taken off? And to chair or moderate the session, we've got Joel Keeble, who's a director at H2 Gambling Capital, who also mentioned to me just now that they've got a very good mobile gambling report that's just come out. So make sure you talk to Joel after the session about that. So Joel, over to you.
Thanks, James. So, okay, good morning, everybody. As James just mentioned, today's session is covering we'll be discussing developments in the mobile gambling space and looking at where businesses in the industry should be focusing to secure mobile revenue. Each time I join an industry panel on mobile gambling, I take a few minutes to reflect on how the use of mobile devices has evolved. First, some were skeptical, but today there's no doubt that mobile is the future of entertainment across many industries, and gambling is no exception. You only need to look around the conference to see the amount of time people are spending on mobile devices. And what is particularly interesting is that this technology interaction is no longer just an out-of-home experience or behavior. So I'm joined on the panel today by a number of familiar faces and experts within the interactive gambling industry who each have a specific area of expertise in the mobile channel. For those of you in the audience that do not recognize the panel members, I'm going to ask each to introduce themselves and make any opening statements. Shall we start down the end with Matt and work our way along?
Sure. So my name is Matt Davey. I'm the CEO for NYX Gaming Group. We have around about 130 staff around the world. We make systems and content and also social gaming products. We produce probably between 80 to 100 slot titles a year, and clearly a large part of that portfolio is mobile product as well.
So my name's Ed Andrews. I work for a company called Locus Gaming. We specialize in mobile and tablet content and B2C casino. I've been sort of in the industry longer than I care to think, but sort of back to 1999, formerly with Blue Square, Victor Chandler, Labrooks, and I am a customer of Matt's.
Hi, my name is Simon Hammon. I'm the Chief Product Officer for Net Entertainment. Net Entertainment is a casino supplier, and mobile is a key portfolio addition for us, key growth area for us, but obviously we're focused on end-to-end casino supplying.
I'm Jamie Reeve. I'm product manager in the mysteriously named Special Projects division at Paddy Power. Principally been working on a couple of iPhone, iPad casino apps in the past year or so.
I'm Raf Keustermans. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Plumbee. Plumbee is a social, free-to-play casino game startup based in London. We have 50 people. We have apps on Facebook and also on mobile, live on iOS. Plumbee also is together with Unibet, an investor in a company called Bonza Gaming. And Bonza is one of the first real money gambling companies active on Facebook with a real money slots app.
Hello, I'm Pascal Brouet. I'm working for BetClic Everest Group as a front office and innovation director. BetClic Everest Group is an operator that works on both regulated and unregulated market, on sports as well as casino and poker and games universes. And we do have a lot of features on mobile, both on sports and casino and soon to be poker. So I guess we're going to all discuss about that now. So.
That's great, thank you. So I'm now going to run through a number of questions with the panel, and at the end I'll give the audience an opportunity to input with their questions. Because of the size of the panel, I think we're probably only going to get through a handful at most questions, so I'll get stuck in straight away, and then hopefully leave 10 or 15 minutes at the end also. One other point is that for anyone who doesn't want to shout out or something comes to mind during the panel, I'm happy to keep an eye on tweets, given this is a mobile panel. So you can tweet any questions to @H2Gamble. So first of all, I think we're all in agreement that today a robust, well-functioning mobile offering is a minimum for any leading interactive gambling operator. Assuming this is a baseline, what should operators be doing to go beyond this to distinguish their offering, gain market share, and increase revenue? And I think if we start down with Matt again, sorry Matt, and work our way along, or if anyone has something they particularly want to shout out, and we can flow and see how things go. Matt?
I think it's important to focus on quality. I think the market has an enormous amount of product at the moment, and I think operators need to look at having a product portfolio that meets the kind of clients that they target, and ensure that that is a high quality product. So on mobile focus in particular, it's a very fast moving market, and we've seen a lot of product improve over time. If you don't have product that is of the standard that the player market expects at the moment, it's a little more difficult to compete. We do distinguish quite a different change in technology between the social gaming side, which Raf is an expert at, versus the real money wagering side, which we typically spend a lot of our time thinking about. I guess the big difference is there in distinguishing yourself is, do you build it in native format or do you focus on HTML5? We do both. It's expensive, a little more time consuming, but the market demands it.
That's great.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, of course, we'd all agree with what Matt says, really. I think probably I'd sort of go back to the basis of the question, and you know, I think it's a big thing now. What is mobile? What is tablet? What is desktop? And I think the simple answer is they've all merged into one. So you kind of, I don't think people should be distinguishing and even saying they've got a mobile service. They've just got a service which works on every platform, every operating system, every size of screen, and that's what people should be really aiming for, and how you can build a service that you can keep up to date, developed and working on all those devices in the most cost efficient way, and you know, that can either be building yourself or partnering with the right people, but you know, there's still plenty of differentiation to be had by doing that, just having a service that works really well and really individually on every device.
Yeah.
Sure. I think operators have a slightly different focus than the B2B supplier. We aim to supply the best quality and innovation in the product. That is the foundation block for any successful operator mobile business. But we are moving in a trend now that is far more differentiated product, differentiated devices, tailored development for specific devices. And that, for a supplier, has a different challenge to meet the operator's market demands. So we have different demands than an operator would, for example, but they're both self-serving.
I would say go for quality over quantity. I think on desktop it's become kind of the norm for sites to kind of talk about how many games they've got live. We've got 300 games or 400 games, when being realistic, a lot of those games are actually terrible and about 10 years old. So on mobile, I think we should kind of go back to basics, aim for quality, and don't worry about just trying to get 50, 100 games on your product. You just want to aim for the best games.
Yeah, I'm actually a bit surprised and a bit disappointed almost that operators don't take more advantage of the revolution that is mobile. Both from a technology point of view and I think also from a product point of view. This is, from where I sit, obviously, I'm not an operator, I'm not a B2B supplier, so I'm a little bit on the outside. But to me, it feels like a lot of operators look at mobile purely as a channel, and I think that's really missing a trick. Mobile is all about touchscreens. For the first time, people engage differently with your content than they did before on the web. They don't use their keyboard or their mouse anymore. And I think we shouldn't really underestimate what that means in terms of engagement, how people behave. Typically what we see on mobile is that the game sessions are shorter. People spend less time but more frequent. So I think you really make a mistake if you think that you can have the same or a similar experience that you had on web and just transport that or try to port it to mobile. I think you really need to think mobile as a complete different experience and maybe even a different audience. What I see still is that a lot of operators, and also to a degree suppliers, although they're less directly in control, obviously, of the end product, that they don't get that they really say, like, we have a bunch of slots on our website, and we're just going to have now a bunch of slots on mobile, and that's it. And I think that's a bad mistake. And I would really like and hope to see that there's going to be more innovative, out-of-the-box products coming out in the next couple of months and years.
Yeah, well, I will definitely agree about the fact that the specificities of mobile has to be taken into account at some point. We were more talking about casino, but it's the same on the sports device as well. That's for sure that even within mobile, when you consider tablet or smartphones, for me, it's not the same usage that you have to do. It's not the same ergonomy or the same design that you have to make. But what is really, for me, important and the revolution, as Raf was saying, is that it's not only a gambling industry revolution, it's just an internet revolution. So basically, all the internet is now moving to the device, mobile or smartphone or tablets. And people are not going to use more the PCs, but it will definitely be more the mobile devices. So that's why we have all to adapt. And when I look to the industry, where I'm only there for 4 years, but I've been working in quite a plenty of internet industries before, I know that even on the web, we are quite far from that, from being at the same standard of the e-commerce industries, which is not the case on mobile, because on the mobile, everybody is learning now. So we have a huge chance as an operator or as a B2B supplier to be able to make this revolution happen. And if I would say what Google has been saying and Facebook as well, is just that we probably have to think mobile first now, meaning that we have only one devices that we have to think as a first situation, even if, of course, the main basics are on the web now, but definitely the features has to be thought on mobile first.
Yeah, and I would maybe add one more thing to that. I think it's not going to happen tomorrow or next week or next month, but I think what we're going to see is the death of the browser. If you look at how children use touchscreen devices, tablets or phones, and they see, for example, their parents or other grown-ups, how they actually get to content. They open a browser, they start typing in like www something. For kids, that's just a ridiculous way to get to content. They just want to click on an icon and something opens up. So I think accessing content through browsers, I think, is a dying model. It's basically how the World Wide Web started 15, 20 years ago. And I think I understand, obviously, there's regulatory issues. It's not that easy, for example, on Google Play to get a native app, a gambling app in the App Store. But I think the industry should really think long and hard about how consumers consume entertainment content, specifically on those devices. And the position of the browser in that universe, I think, is going to change dramatically. And I think if people wait too long to see that and to anticipate, they might wake up one day and have to smell the coffee. That might not be the most pleasant coffee.
Yeah, that's great. And I think now if we just spend a few minutes talking about social gaming, which has clearly been a significant growth area within the leisure entertainment industry. So I'm interested to know what the panel's view is on social gaming's ability to positively impact real money gambling in the future, and is there signs of convergence? And I know that specifically Raf and Matt have something to say on this topic, and if the other guys have some comments as well, that's great. Do you want to go first, Raf?
Sure. I talk a lot though, but so I think that there's a couple of things, right? So first of all, a lot of people still look at social free-to-play gaming or casino games as a marketing vehicle for like the real stuff, and the real stuff is then the real money gambling. I think that's a big mistake to make. First of all, it would be a very ineffective marketing channel. If you basically look at social games as a way to get users to sign up to your real money business, it's a very expensive way to get there. If you have to buy a game studio for tens or hundreds of millions of dollars, it's probably not the best use of your money. And also, so far, there is no evidence that it works. That if you look at social free-to-play games as a way of, as a top part of your funnel to get on a percentage of those people to sign up for real money, that's probably not going to work. The same, I think, is true on using social games as part of your CRM approach. We've seen also a couple of specifically land-based casinos taking that approach, where social, again, is sort of like a parallel universe to the normal world, which is real money gambling. I think the reality is that social is a different audience. Obviously, there will be some overlap, but I think it's smaller than most people think. And it is a revenue generator in its own right. If we look, for example, to public companies, IGT and Caesars, the impact that their social game business have on the total top and bottom line, it's immense. We're talking hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue, very high margins, 30+% EBITDA. Those are really growth engines for really big companies. We all know how big Caesars and IGT are. So to make an impact on those kind of companies, I think it gives you an idea. So I think that's one thing. So convergence is for me, I'm not a strong believer in convergence if convergence means that social gaming is a function of real money gambling. I think convergence will more happen at a product level or technology level where social gaming hopefully has opened the eyes for some of the operators in terms of thinking around product innovation, for adding persistent features above and beyond the core games. And that's interesting, and I would like and hope to see more of that. But I think convergence will happen at that level, product and technology, and not as part of a funnel or a CRM approach, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think Raf touches on a good point there. We shouldn't be thinking about force-feeding our customers with one particular product or another. So from our perspective, we look at making a great game, and then we want to deliver it in whatever format that the player wants. And so there is a market out there that loves things in the social format, for instance. They have no interest potentially in real money wagering, but you can monetize the social gaming side. The reason why social is a topic in the mobile industry is that there's three real virtual currency markets. We have the App Store run by Apple, we have the Android store, and then there's the Facebook market, and Facebook obviously has made great push into the mobile. So we look at building a fantastic product, we look at them deploying that in the formats that our customers want. So be it on the web, be it on mobile, be it in social, be it in play for fun only, be it in real money wagering, and allow the players to choose which kind of format they prefer.
On a product level, I totally agree with yourself, Raf. I mean, I think essentially we're dealing with two different demographics. The convergence model is not proven. Hopefully it's there. Hopefully there's an education to a wider market. But on a product level, it can impact real money in that sense, because the nature of trying to make an engaging social game is trying to utilize the technology in new and innovative ways, which we can all learn from and apply to the real money sphere. So from a real money perspective, I think there's an education of a wider market and perhaps increased product innovation that can come of it. So I'm quite excited by the possibilities. So I think it's a good thing for us.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think one of the things we can definitely learn from the social and casual game space is the production values and the design quality that comes with those apps. It's there's an expectancy now from people playing those games to have a real quality experience when they play, and I don't think the gambling industry is keeping pace with that at the moment. I think the games like the Mirable slots of Raf's look fantastic, and I think there aren't enough real money gambling games that kind of have that same kind of look and feel and playability about them.
I guess that as an operator, I would say that it's exactly the same. Why the issue is there? Seems not. Yeah. I mean, I agree fully that. Yeah, I would fully agree about the fact that for me the audience is not the same, and for me the fact that you have some free players' money that comes to premium, but as a gambling is definitely not proven at all. And that's definitely why we as operator do potentially have an issue there. It's just that we so have much to work to do on our, let's say, core business model, that it's always quite hard to think about the social gaming. Even if, of course, we know and we see the trend that there is something to be there done. So I would say on my side that perhaps there is some social gaming to be usage more on the, let's say, gamification aspect. So we have our own sports websites, our own casino websites, but we can use the social by meaning that you have maybe some ranks or some rankings, some groups within your players that you can help your players be in competition with others. That's where you can find some gamification, and using the social, it's maybe the first step for us to go afterwards to the real social gaming.
Yeah, I would add just one more thing to that, is that because of all the things we mentioned here, I think also like you have to, as an operator, think long and hard about what you want to do with social gaming, specifically from like an M&A perspective, like just to buy a social game studio might not always make sense for an operator. It really depends. If, as an operator, your strategy is to become a broader entertainment company and social gaming is part of your content and your technology strategy, it might make a lot of sense to see how you can integrate, either build or buy a social game unit. But if you think that, again, if you think it's part of your funnel, your marketing strategy, I think it's going to be a very expensive and probably not very successful way to get into that space.
Yeah, and I think another interesting point is, operators that are looking to produce both social and real money games could save on the development costs. There's synergies there that they can take advantage of. So moving on to the next question, when I moderated one of the first mobile gambling panels at ICE in 2010, first major, when mobile was just taking off, the audience was much smaller than it is today, and there were very limited number of B2B operators providing mobile platform and content at the time. Today, the majority of serious interactive gambling companies are focusing on mobile and offering a suite of mobile products. So my question to the panel is, what should operators be looking for from a B2B supplier, and how can they get some clarity on the different products that are available? And should we start with Pascal and we can move along?
Yeah, for sure. Well, as I said first, that we have to think mobile first. I mean, I would say also that our B2B supplier have to think touch first. Meaning that, as we said before, the experience has to be fully and completely about the touch. I've been seeing some casino stuff with the roulette, for example, where you do have some possibilities to make yourself, by just using your finger, or the whole roulette being able to roll, not just clicking on one button. And that makes the whole difference of what you can see on the touch screen. If I speak about sports, we do have, imagine a betting slip where you just have to raise your stake and to see the different risk of minimizing risk, or to have up left risk by just using your finger, or you can just cross the different matches by using your finger as well. And all the work that is done by the different gaming supplier, such as Net and we are working with, are only focused on touch, and that's what we're going to get, and that's what we want, because that's, at the end of the day, as Raf mentioned before, the way that internet is going to be. We have to think that typing is a common usage, but will probably not be anymore.
Yeah. So again, as a bit of an outsider, especially to this question, I might have a slightly naive view of this, because for me it's almost the question is, isn't mobile an opportunity for operators to change the way how they work with B2B suppliers? I think someone mentioned before, it's about quality, not quantity. So there's less need to have 150 slots games. There's probably more need to have a product that is fresh and unique at all levels, how it looks, how it plays, but also the content. So for me, mobile is, I think, for a lot of smart and forward-thinking operators, an opportunity to move a bit away from the model that currently exists online, where you have a big risk of product commoditization, where pretty much everyone ends up with roughly the same kind of slots, the same kind of poker. And I think mobile, because it's different, because it's much more like a curated experience with a focus on less but better content, much more focus on UI, that I think there's an opportunity for operators to think how they can work differently, maybe with a smaller set of suppliers, exclusive content, have some joint production of specific content that is unique to them. But again, I'm an outsider. I appreciate there's a lot of things that play a role in it, including regulation and the complexity of the market. But
yeah, I agree to some extent there. Obviously, there's often some complications around exclusivity deals with existing partners. But at Paddy Power, for example, we purchased a company called Kaitano Gaming a year or two ago now, who develop exclusive slots content for us, which is starting to work really well. We've got a bunch of slots live on the sites now, which are performing just as well as any other of the top games. Again, I think it's about, at the risk of repeating myself, it's about raising the bar now. People expect a real quality experience on mobile. They're used to that from the casual games they play, and the other kind of top tier apps across all industries, really. People expect quality in design and interactivity now. It's definitely no good just porting a desktop game onto mobile or onto tablet. People expect it to react in the way that other apps they use react. Like people are just used to the way the buttons are laid out or the different interactions, like you were saying before, and also just using the device-specific features as well. So we talk about the touchscreen, but then there's also various things you can obviously do with the gyroscope or GPS or voice control, and there's kind of lots and lots of different creative options there. And so I think the people that are going to win are going to be the people that's going to find a kind of a new niche in gaming and a kind of more interactive way of playing.
If I can just rebound just a little bit on what you were saying, I mean, what you were saying about speed is for me really important as well. I mean, I was hearing something that on desktop you are waiting between 11 minutes and 25 minutes just to open your desktop and to have everything that is running. It's something that nobody will accept on mobile as well. I mean, and so that's why. That's why we have to focus also on the speed of the access to the game because it has to go at the same speed as the device itself.
Just on this question, I think as a B2B supplier, we have a dual responsibility. I think on the one hand, we must listen to the market demand from the operators, and the other side, we have to create the market demand in innovation and create that next step. So on the one side, the more operator-specific side, we have to create synergies in our content from a desktop and a mobile side for cross-marketing. We have to make sure we're in tune with the latest devices, latest operating systems. They are foundation blocks to support the operator's business. But on the product development side, from where we look at it, we're also trying to create that next tier of innovation, utilization of the actual device in a more creative and sort of functional way. So it's definitely dual. It's a dual responsibility that a B2B supplier has.
Yeah, I mean, I think all those are valid points. I guess, I take a bit of an issue in terms of the number of suppliers are out there and going to all the suppliers. I mean, we certainly take the view, your back-end system's got to be flexible enough to use as many suppliers as you possibly can. And yeah, and Raf's right, there's a danger that everybody has the same games from the same suppliers. But I think there's a lot else in the service in terms of brand, in terms of bonusing and the way you treat the customer, that even if everybody is using all those suppliers, you can still get quite a lot of differentiation. I think I would definitely agree with the point, quality over quantity, and you don't want to go to supplier and just take all their content. You've got to think of your brand, think what target audience you're trying to get to, and make sure you've got the games displayed in the way that suit that target audience. So I mean, my sort of lesson from this whole thing, if you want to be a B2C operator and only have your own content, or you're fixed into one supplier, be very, very careful, because if it's your own content and you want to develop to compete with everybody else, you've got to have very big pockets. And if you're only in a situation where you've got an exclusivity with one supplier, however good they are, however wide their range of games, however big their development teams is, there's always going to be the other companies out there who are going to have one or two products that you need and that are better in certain areas.
I'll probably just add 2 points to the general discussion here. One, mobile is really just a client challenge. It's not a server challenge. So the game is the game. You're really interpreting how the product works in a mobile format versus a web format. You can take a quick look at it and just reproduce what you have on the web, or you can think through how the features and functions work, because the mobile product is a more intimate product. It's a lot more immersive. So if you think through it, some of the features and functions will change on it. That's point one. Point two, we had to focus heavily on our product development processes so that we also produced a mobile product at the same time as we produced the web product. So operators are demanding from us a simultaneous release of those product sites. It's not good enough to come back to market 3 or 4 months later with the mobile version of the web version. You have to synchronize the release cycles now, which allow people then to maximize their marketing.
Great, thanks. And I think an important point that keeps cropping up is the quality over quantity point. I think that's important in mobile as much as it is in other areas of gambling. I'm going to now I think we'll have time for one more question before taking questions from the audience. This is my favourite question, in fact, and I'm interested to know what the panel's view is on the single driver that excites them the most about the potential for mobile gambling over the coming months and years, and also, at the same time, what their single greatest concern is. Should we start at this end with Pascal?
Yeah, sure. Okay, I would begin by the constraints, actually, because I think that we will have the best quality of games that will be provided by NetEnt or by other providers. We will have the best UI that we have been working for months, but at the end of the day, we have to drive the customer to our product on mobile. And that's fully and completely different about what happened on web. Because you have to sometimes download an app or download the launcher with the web app. So you have to have the people make a real action, which is not only just typing or clicking on something that is already on the web. So as it was mentioned before, we have the three drivers, which is the Apple Store, Google Play, and Facebook. And one of them, and even almost two, is providing real money on their platform. And if for whatever reason Apple is doing the same at some point, we definitely will have some issues to make this really happening. So one of the big concerns is not to be able to explain to them why real money is not a devil, why real money is not something that will make their brand image really poor. So we have to sit with them and to discuss about the fact that we are an entertaining company, as all the operators, and we just want to provide some leisure to the company. And that's obviously something that it's really on our mind, because acquisition and retention are fully depending on them. Also, if I'm talking about retention, the way that retention is done on mobile is fully different as well on the web. So that's something that we all have to learn. It could go through push technologies, it could go through in-app purchase, so in-app inform and message. So there is a full range of revolution that also happened there that we have to work with. So it's a constraint for both of them, but it's definitely what is also excited, because we were talking about revolution. There is revolution on, of course, UI in games, but also on the way that we are marketing everything.
Yeah. Sorry, Joel, the question was, what is the most exciting trend, or?
Yeah, what's the most exciting driver that you foresee in mobile gambling over the coming months and years?
And the concern.
And also the concern as well,
Right.
your greatest concern.
Yeah, I think the platform owners will right now hold the key cards, right? Google specifically, I think, has a lot of potential to set the world on fire. But also, I think I wouldn't underestimate Facebook in this area. Obviously, Facebook has opened their platform on web in the UK. Might look for UK for now, which is obviously a very sophisticated and very well-regulated gambling market. But assuming that things go well, and that have the feeling that things are going well, they might also want to venture out. So I think the platform owners right now, for me, could have a bigger impact on the ecosystem than the operators or B2B suppliers. And given the size of the market, given what is happening, Facebook being a US-listed company moving into this space might also make companies like Google a bit more open for the idea of looking into this. Also, Apple, as we know, has for a long time been more welcoming to gambling apps. So I would expect in the coming months to see some movement there. The key platform owners will reshuffle the cards, which will be interesting for everyone.
Yeah, sure.
I guess it's a slightly boring answer, but I would probably say the speed and penetration of mobile networks and devices. It's easy to assume that everyone's got a smartphone and tablet at the moment, but they certainly don't. So there's still a huge audience out there who's going to kind of come onto those devices over the next couple of years as they get cheaper and more accessible. And obviously the 4G networks just increase the kind of the speed and reliability of those networks as well. So anyone playing outside the home are going to kind of worry less about the app dropping on them and having problems with connection issues and such things.
Yeah, and the leading gambling markets in Europe today have a smartphone penetration rate of somewhere
obviously
between
much lower than
45,
us, yeah.
maybe up to 60 maximum, whereas if you look at mobile in general, it's 120, 130, so there's, you know, huge amount of growth still waiting to happen.
Lots and lots of scope still.
Yeah.
I think from a supplier perspective, there's a lot of excitement about the development, actually. We're seeing, I think we're experiencing quite a sweet spot in mobile development right now, partly because that's, the revenues aren't necessarily cannibalizing on the desktop equivalent, so everything looks good from a financial perspective, but it's also the new devices, the appetite for innovation and drive and product innovation there is something that we as a supplier grip onto when we're trying to further. I think we've done a very good job of that, so it's about maintaining that position. Biggest concern is actually quite a practical one. I mean, it is a new development focus, a new area for most suppliers, especially over the last few years. And you know, a lot of suppliers are learning as well how to manage that in a good way, deal with the different fragmentation of devices, making sure that we're in tune with the latest operating systems. And they are quite boring but practical challenges that we have to face. Good thing we're on top of them, but you know, they are concerns, and things can change at any moment that could affect our frameworks, our toolboxes, and so on and so forth. So these are general product concerns.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a concern with the talent pool, kind of getting development resource to create new games?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question, because obviously it's been Flash driven. Of course, HTML5 is quite a new technology in that sense, and the competence in that is light, but it's an emerging talent. It's one that I think is becoming easier and easier to get a hold of. New centers and pockets are springing up all over the place. So I think I'm not unduly concerned about our ability to get that talent pool. I don't think we're suffering from the innovation there, but it is a growing technology for sure.
I mean, I think, you know, being this far down the end of the line, you've got to come up with new stuff. But I think, you know, in terms of the product, I think we are just on the cusp of what's possible. And I kind of, you know, always said right from the beginning with mobile, a lot of people talked about the opportunity of playing on the go, play anytime, anywhere. And actually, I think what's really been the experience of mobile, it's actually more fun to use a touchscreen device than it is to play sitting in front of your PC screen. And I think, you know, obviously all the developers at the moment, they make use of those touchscreen functionality, but I think we've only just started what's going to be possible kind of going forward, and then you get into the whole virtual reality stuff, which in other sectors, you know, selling cars, and is now actually becoming fairly prevalent and fairly mainstream. And I think, you know, there's a lot of opportunities for our sector offered by, you know, things like virtual reality. And actually that could be the real, everybody's always been looking for the sort of community aspect of casino gaming, almost creating more of the community aspects for online that you get in the casino, and actual virtual reality coming in and, you know, putting your iPad on the table and actually using it as a proper wheel and spinning, where there's a group of you playing on another device, actually going into that spin of the wheel. It's kind of really interesting development, and these things always take time, but it kind of, I think, could add a whole new dimension rather than purely the kind of, you know, sole user experience.
Yeah.
And I guess we probably touch on the same point Jamie talked about, market expansion. What we've got with mobile is an amazing opportunity to reach a new audience and the same audience just more frequently. So you've got an ability to be able to increase revenues within a fairly competitive and relatively mature marketplace. So that is fantastic to be able to access that. The other area that we're particularly excited on is mobile is subject to Moore's law, where we've got a rapid evolution of technology. So what you can do on mobile today is vastly different from what you could do 3 or 4 years ago. When we first looked at mobile product, wireless application protocol was the product that you had to work with, WAP, and it was terrible. It was a terrible user experience. So with the advent of smartphones, the improvement of processing power and displays, we can do fantastic things on the mobile product, and it turns out consumers like it. It's a much better experience these days.
Yeah, that's great. They're all very interesting comments. We're approaching the end of the session, though we did start a few minutes late, so I think we still have time for a question from the audience. Does anybody have a question for the panel? And
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to probably address this to Ed Andrews because the rest of you are probably too young to remember. Although anybody can pipe in, of course. Is the App Store the AOL of this decade? You know, it certainly has us all by the short hairs today. But even when you look at globally at what's happening with the platforms, Android is taking off at far greater rates. And I buy the app argument versus HTML5. I want to be native as well. But that clinch that Apple has on us through the App Store and probably less so Google with the Android Play Store. I foresee these things going away just like AOL did. And I don't know if we're going to go back to the browser as Raf was saying. So perfectly. But what do you think, Ed? We've been through this a couple times before. You know, what's your view on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a sort of very good point, and I'm sort of you're sort of preempting some of what I'm going to say in my presentation after this. So it's sort of very, very pertinent question. But I think that's right. I mean, we always went for a web-based application for that very reason. We wanted to come up with something that worked on all devices, all screen sizes, all operating systems. And that is, you know, that's what people have missed about the App Store. A year ago, it was all about the App Store. Now it's only going to be, you know, not a small, but a smaller percentage of your people who are going to have access to the App Store. You know, there's still a lot to run in terms of whether real money gambling will be allowed in Google Play. So no, the App Store is definitely not the be-all and end-all. And I personally think people should be doing what we're doing, which is concentrating on the web-based product. So we don't actually have an app at the moment. Funny enough, we're starting some TV advertising at the end of the month. Now, because we're doing TV advertising, you can't always drive them through a URL, drive them to a web-based product. So we're going to lose footfall if we don't have an app. But we certainly don't see kind of an app strategy in our overall strategy. It's still web-based so that whatever device, whatever operating system on, people will be able to get a first-class experience through Jack Gold. It's a very good point.
Sorry, I disagree a bit on that. I think the difference with AOL was that AOL was purely like a walled garden where AOL had 100% control over the content within their walled garden. While I think the App Store is, there's obviously an element of curation. I mean, obviously you need to pass certain minimum quality criteria. Your software can't be buggy or highly offensive. But by and large, Apple, iOS, also Google Play, apart from real money gambling for now, it's relatively open. Any guy can create an app, push it to Apple, and assuming the content works, the software works, you get there, right? That was never possible with AOL. You had to actually get a meeting with their BizDev guys, get a commercial agreement in place. So I don't think the analogy really works. And I do think that from a consumer point of view, an element of curation is important. So I think the App Store has a role to play to make sure that there are minimum criteria, to make sure software isn't buggy, content is good quality.
Okay, we've reached the end of the session now. We've run a couple of minutes over, but Ed, I believe, is remaining on stage anyway, so he can perhaps continue on that point. I'd just like to thank the panel for all of their interesting comments and also to the audience for your attentiveness. Thank you very much.